Thank you, everyone. It's great to see you here on Zoom. I can't see everybody, but I did check down to the chat. So shout outs to everyone. Reverend Kelly's here. Also, I think Kazo's here. He's a buddy of mine nearby in San Francisco. So welcome everybody. It's great to be here. This was my spring break, so my friend Jake and I decided that we were going to take a little vacation inside San Francisco. So you're actually allowed to go to a hotel. So we're at the historic Hotel Fairmont in San Francisco right now. And right now I'm looking at a view of Alcatraz and Angel Island. Maybe Reverend Tony, if I may, I'll give you a little picture of my view out there. I don't know if you could you see anything there? Okay. So we're here. Now I got to recenter myself. So we're here and we're trying to make the best of this current situation that's going on. So the title of my talk today is, what is a virus? Nothing. Where is a virus? Nowhere. And, it's kind of interesting. I think it's always interesting how these talks come to us. We were at our ACIM LGBTQ class on Thursday night, and these two lines were in two different paragraphs in the reading that we read. And I just made a comment about them, and I substituted virus for idols. And Reverend Vincent actually said he liked my little snippet on that. So I said, okay. So this is what Spirit, I took that as confirmation from Spirit of what I should talk about. So we are living in interesting times. And I really believe that the most important thing for us as Course in Miracles students is kind of what the lesson was saying today. I think the time is now for us to hold on to our truth, the truth of who we really are. When the Course in Miracles talks about there is no death, it's talking about the illusion of death. That yes, we live here in our physical bodies and we have these separate where we appear to be figures separated in the dream, but deep down we know that this is not our true reality. And I think it's really important for us as Course in Miracles students to be an example of that, both in our own thinking and in our own practice, but also demonstrate it to the world. Course in Miracles has this quote. It's talking about the peace of God. This peace is totally incapable of being shaken by errors of any kind. It denies the ability of anything not of God to affect you. So there are a lot of errors that we're probably making all the time in response to this coronavirus that is appearing to impact so many of us. And of course, as we know, in the ego world, the impact can be devastating. And we're seeing that right now with all the people suffering and the first line defense folks that are, getting sick and going in and working many hours and trying to do their best to preserve life of those who have been infected by this virus and so on and so forth. But what our job is to do is, in the midst of all that stress and all that struggle, and maybe your struggle or stress is different than somebody else's. Mine is just being cooped up all the time. That's my biggest stress. The thing for us to do is to remember to demonstrate our reality. So how do we do that? How do we demonstrate our reality? So, what I do is that usually the way I've been working this we call it in San Francisco, the shelter in residence. What I've been doing is I usually go out in the morning to run errands. So I'm an early riser. I'm usually out 8:30, 9 o'clock. And, I go and get coffee. I usually have some banking or, things to do. So my neighborhood is the Castro. That's where my laundry is. That's where my bank is. That's where my coffee place is, and so on and so forth. And you can see the fear on people's faces. You can really see it. And here I am walking down the street with my smile on my face. And I'm trying to really project I feel like, oh my God, I got out of my room. I'm feeling pretty good of just being able to do that. And you can see that people are sometimes they are just really happy to see a smiling face, you know, and that's really great. And then sometimes they like get away from you. You know, they're like, oh my God, this person doesn't get it that we're in the middle of this pandemic, and they try to get away from me, you know? So it's okay too. You know, I kind of have that experience as well. But what I mostly find is like, I try to say hello to everyone. Now, you have to understand, like in the Castro in San Francisco, you know, if you walk down the street, if you say hi to every guy, you know, sometimes they take that as you might be hitting on them. Okay. But now they're just so grateful that somebody's breaking the silence truthfully. I've done it, and they're like, oh, hi, how you doing? And that's all we do. We don't have a conversation, you know, we're respecting the physical distancing and all the rest. But there is this this plague of fear also that everyone is concerned about. And so, you know, I just think whatever we can do in whatever way, wherever we got it, in a safe way. I'm not breaking any of the rules or anything like that, but in a safe way, let's try to demonstrate who we really are in our spirit and in our innocence and in our love. And people really appreciate it. So I think that's the most important thing that I can think of that we can do. Now, for many of us, this is also a time of healing. I think if we're all honest, that there are a lot of things that may be coming up for us. Well, I could just say for myself, there are things that are coming up for me. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge that, you know, what's coming up. You know, what's coming up for me is my issues with authority. And, you know, I do have, you know, the Course in Miracles tells us every problem comes from our authority, because, you know, in the origin of everything, we chose to separate from God. We made that choice with the ego. And at the same time in my life, I thought sometimes it has been advantageous to not follow the conventional wisdom that is put out there. And my concern about what's happening as I see what's going on in the world right now, is not just the actions that we've taken in terms of sheltering and all that, but it's the fear. It's the fear that is on the media, sometimes 24/7. So, you know, what do I do with that? Well, as a minister, as a teacher, you know, and I also teach students as well who have mental health issues and are in a lot of fear right now. You know, what can we do? Well, we can just provide them with some comfort, some security, you know, and we can be a presence to them. Because we all have people in our lives who are not Course in Miracles students. We all have people in our lives, I believe, who may be at different levels of their experience. Some of them may not have a spirituality. Some of them may not have access to some type of, you know, whatever, you know, some kind of inspiration, as we know. And so it's not about pushing the Course down their throats or anything like that, but it's about being that loving presence, that kind, forgiving, loving presence in the face of all this. And so for me, you know, what I really need to do is I need to, you know, we're just really working on letting go the blame game, and not blaming leaders, not blaming governors, not blaming the Chinese, and so on and so forth. And, you know, that's exactly what the ego wants out of this whole situation. It wants us to hate the Chinese. It wants us to hate our leaders. It wants us to go crazy as we're sheltering in residence. That's my big challenge. You know, that's what it wants, you know? So it's incumbent upon us as a Course in Miracles students to challenge that. To say no. You know, there's lots of things that we can do. Course in Miracles says this: put not faith in illusions. And trust me that this virus is part of the illusion. They will fail you, eternal, changeless, and forever unfailing. Through the love of God within you, seeming difficulties without effort and ensure confidence, you can resolve all. So we got this, folks. We can do this. Okay, we are able to heal this virus that is now impacting the entire world, but it gives manifestations to us in many, many different ways. So we can do it. The other thing I think we all have to make is, and so Reverend Tony talked about this a little bit last week, is we all have our level of risk that we're assessing, right? Each of us has a different level. So if I'm a person that is in one of the categories where you are more susceptible to the virus, if you're over a certain age, if you have a compromised immune system, if you have a medical condition, and so on and so forth, they say take certain precautions. So I like to translate that into the course's idea of right-mindedness. And the one thing that I find interesting is that I'm actually finding the alternative political point of view as giving me some more insight than my traditional viewpoint. I've actually listened to some doctors on Fox and some of the commentators on Fox, and I find myself agreeing with them in certain respects. This one gentleman who is a candidate for Senate in a Republican candidate for Senate in Massachusetts, he actually was the inventor of email. I learned this, but he talked about how we are so much disease focused in this country that the biggest thing that we can do actually is be healthy. He talked about making sure that we are eating properly, and he criticized the food industry in our country. Now, I know I said not to criticize, but maybe observe, all right, that much of our food is processed and not healthy for us. He also said that it's important to get sunlight. It's important to get sunlight. It provides vitamin D. Make sure we get enough vitamin C and vitamin A. Make sure we exercise. And his feeling was the message behind this virus is let's boost our immune systems. So in following that up, I also want to say this. I want to say that, as Course in Miracles students, we know everything originates in the mind. So this virus has come, we all agreed to come at this time in our lives, that this virus would come and this virus would be here. And so we take that responsibility on. And what we then have to do is, with right-mindedness, in other words, we wash our hands. If we're guided to, we keep physical distance, but we don't allow the separation idea to permeate in our minds. And that's what's really important. And so what I am seeing is people reach out, just like we are on Zoom. Thank you, Reverend Tony and Community Miracle Center, everyone helping with that. That's what's happening as a teacher in my classes now. I started teaching Zoom last week. And a lot of people are trying to come up with creative ways to stay connected, because there can be, kind of challenges. So I think the right-minded approach is, as Reverend Tony said last week, yes, we all have to decide what our level of risk is, what we're going to do and not do. But I think the most important thing is align ourselves with right-mindedness, and rather than protect ourselves from the virus, take a defensive posture, I would really say, let's pray and meditate, let's exercise, let's try to eat healthier, and let's do the things to boost our immune system. I think that is really, really important. Now, I do have concerns, okay, about just as a citizen of this country, as a citizen of the world now, we're experiencing all this. And I have concerns about civil liberties. And this is where I was very interesting. This is when I turned on Fox News and I heard Tucker Carlson and this Laura Ingraham, I think her name is. Now, folks, I'm not a conservative. I'm a progressive Democrat, and maybe even a democratic socialist. But the truth be known is that they were expressing concerns that I'm not hearing on those other news networks about civil liberties. And I think civil liberties are really important. Without the First Amendment, we would not have A Course in Miracles in this world right now, because there wouldn't have been any government in the world that would allow this book to be printed without the First Amendment. Protection of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and so on and so forth. So it came about in the 60s when everything else was happening. And the one thing I love about this country, I love about the United States of America, is that we fight for freedom. We fight for individual rights. We fight for everybody to have a sense of equality, whoever you are. And it's been an amazing thing. If you're Chinese, the Chinese are, if you want something built, go to China. They can do the Olympics, they can build huge stadiums, huge dams. They're wonderful engineers. But come to the United States and we fight for freedom. And I think that's really, really important for us right now to just be aware of what's happening, and be careful about what our leaders, who I think, I see my leaders as innocent, but I'm not naive either. And I really think it's important for us to make sure that we hold our leaders accountable, to be accountable. And right now, our civic leaders have a lot of power. And some of that power is through care, and some of it's through fear. And they are human too. And there was an old political philosopher in the name of Rousseau who said, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I just think we should all be vigilant, not only for our right-mindedness, but also we should be vigilant for protecting those rights in the Constitution. The other thing I kind of think I have concerns about is, it's just an observation. But if you take a look at, why is this virus so exponentially growing in our country faster than anywhere else? And it recalls to me a movie I saw years ago. And part of the movie was discussing that in the United States, we have this culture of fear. And the culture of fear results in a lot of different things. Like people in our country, everyone locks their doors. Nobody keeps their doors open. And in other countries, that's less of an issue. Children aren't allowed to go outside as much as they used to be able to go outside. And the part of it was this idea that our media is very controlled. And a lot of the message we get are fear, fear, fear. And responding to that message is defense, defense, defense. Defenses, defenses, defenses. Sometimes that's a national defense budget that's 10 times bigger than anyone else's. And sometimes it's also just, buy, right? What they show you a TV show, it's scary. They put on an ad, buy this, buy that, so on and so forth. So I just think it's important for us that as Course in Miracles students also to be vigilant for, kind of the media environment that we're in. Now, I kind of want to close with this section. Here are the areas of growth that I have seen. Just let me start from myself first. As some of you know that are close to me, I struggle with technology. And I am now being forced to deal with technology. I have to teach from Google Classroom, which before this, we've had it for like 5 years. I won't even go near it. Well, now I'm starting to put assignments on Google Classroom, so I'm being forced. I'm teaching classes from Zoom. Besides our Course of Miracles class, my regular classes are going to start doing Zoom in about a week. So for me, it's been an opportunity to confront my judgments about technology, probably more my fears about technology, and just kind of be doing it from that side. I think it's also an opportunity for us to go within, that I think, this kind of sheltered in residence is an opportunity for us. We're spending more time. And so, a lot of us do meditation practices here, but I'll be honest with you, I kind of, my mornings kind of fast, and, I usually do like a 5-minute meditation. Well, now, I'm not allowed to leave. Well, I have more time in the morning now. I have more time in the evening. Like I don't have as many, we're not going out to meet people or to do our regular thing. So I think it's an opportunity for that, is to go within. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm an exerciser. And so I am now doing this miracle walking. It's literally, that's what it's called. There's a woman on YouTube. I call her Wendy the Walker. That's not her real name, but she looks like a Wendy to me on YouTube. And I do all these walking aerobics, and they're great. And so every morning I do it right after my prayer and meditation. And, it gets me going. But I think, again, it's like, that's a positive thing that I can do, and it wakes me up just as well as coffee does. The other thing that's really positive, I think, is the planet. The planet is getting an opportunity to breathe. I think maybe Reverend Tony mentioned this last week, but, there's less pollution, there's less economic activity. And as a consequence of that, we are actually, seeing that there's pictures from space. Los Angeles doesn't have the smog or the haze apparently anymore. So our natural world is getting an opportunity to breathe again. And I think that can be really, really, is really a positive sign. And maybe the people we live with, we're having opportunities. I still think we have challenges ahead. I think in New York, I heard domestic violence cases are going up. I know mental health issues and depression and anxiety are an issue. But I think all in all that we really have an opportunity now for ourselves to heal our own minds, and then to be kind of ambassadors of the Course in Miracles to the world at large. Let's show them our really who we are, that we are eternal, we are love. We don't have to be afraid of death or a virus. What is a virus? Nothing. Where is a virus? Nowhere. Be at peace, folks. That's all I got. Thank you.
All this world I feel for you. A cloud in heaven was made for you. I want to heal you, woman, and make you happy. All these words I'd like to say, I can wish and I can pray. I'd like to raise you, woman, and set you free.